I have a request to make some canisters for use in the kitchen. The lids need to be positively closed, but the canisters don't need to be airtight. I'm also keen to try out a recessed handle design on the lids. So let's see if I can get this to work. I'm using 450 grams of clay for the lid and around 1 kilo for the base. I want one of the canisters to be quite a bit taller, so I'll increase the amount of clay I use for that base. I'm using a mid-fire clay that has a bit of tooth. It can be a little rough for trimming, but it does fire to a really nice sandy colour with lovely dark speckles. I used this clay for my signature pasta bowls. So I'll start by making the base. I centre the clay. Once I've centered, I flatten the clay. And then I push down into the clay. I open out. And I start to form the walls. So I start to form the gallery about now. So I'm creating a ledge of clay that sits just a little under the rim. And bring just a little more clay up. I trim around the base. And I straighten the sides of the canister with my rib. I measure the inside of the gallery using my lid master, and then I set aside to dry to leather hard. And now for the lid. The lid's pretty simple. I push the clay out to the diameter of the lid. I'm using my lid master to get the right dimension for the inside of the gallery. I push down a little to form the inner part of the flange. I'll carve the outer part of the flange later when I'm trimming. I compress and tidy up a little. I'm going to make a small channel in the side of the lid. When I cut away the excess, this will form the 2 tongues that slot down into the body. And I set aside the lid to dry to leather hard. So now I'm ready to trim the base. However, before I trim around the base, I need to cut out 2 slots in the ledge of the gallery. I've made a template so I can position the slots accurately. I mark the slots and then I cut the slots. I know many pots just have one tongue and slot, but I'm not convinced that really does the job. I've seen many pots with lids that escape. And now I flip the base onto its rim. I make sure it's centered, and then I trim across the base. I also tidy around the edge. And then I use my rib to compress and smooth the base. Now I'm ready to trim the lid. Once again, I use my template to mark out the position where the 2 tongues are going to fit into the slots on the base. And then for each tongue, I make 2 cuts. And now using the wheel, very slowly, I cut away the excess between the 2 tongues. I carefully remove the excess, and I'm left with 2 tongues that correspond to the slots on the base. I tidy the lid with a sponge. Now I flip the lid to trim the recessed handle. I trim down into the clay at an angle to form the handle. And now I bevel the outer edge of the channel. And that's it. Although I know the clay is very fragile at this stage, I do check to make sure that my lid fits and that it locks. Very gingerly. And bisque file. So now it's time to glaze. On the inside, I'm glazing with a glossy white glaze. I like the idea of a practical liner glaze. On the outside, I'm glazing with a white satin glaze that allows the loveliness of the clay flecks to show. For the taller canister, I'll use the glossy white inside and out. So, as we get closer to the firing, I've been thinking fire together or separately. If I fire them together, not in the lock position, will I still be easily able to separate them? I think this locking technique is really useful if you're making canisters, tureens, or teapots. And these pots are really useful. My favourite is the spaghetti canister. But of course they'll work for so many items. They really appeal to my sense of the practical. If you want more canister action, check out my airtight canister video. And happy potting!